What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr Wargames, and today I am bringing you an agent profile. Now obviously this is thanks to the brand new support we received in Ghost from the Past, and I'm going to take you through exactly what the deck can do, how it looks like, what you're going to need in order to put it together, and then at the end of the video I'll show you some very basic combos to kind of put everything in one video and get you started. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. If you'd like to see a full test stand video with this deck, then make sure you hit that like button to get it above 50 likes in the first 24 hours. With all of that out of the way, massive shout out to Carl and Donald who helped put this together with me, and I'm going to take you through the profile. So we start off with one of each of the Master Hyperion and the Majesty Hyperion. So the Majesty is the brand new one that we received in Ghost from the Past. I wasn't around during the original Agent kind of format, so it's kind of nice being able to revisit this and basically looking at what the new cards can provide to the deck. So OG Master Hyperion is you can special summon it from the hand by banishing an agent monster from your hand, field or graveyard. Once per turn you can banish a light fairy monster from your graveyard, then target one card on the field and destroy it. While Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, you can activate this effect up to twice per turn. It's a shame it's not a quick effect. Then obviously the new Majesty one, the artworks on all of the agents are really cool. Is you can special summon this card from the hand or graveyard by banishing an agent monster from your hand, field or graveyard. Only special summon this card once per turn this way. Any battle damage you take from battles involving your fairy monsters is also inflicted to your opponent. Once per turn you can banish one fairy monster from your hand or graveyard to then target one card in either graveyard and banish it. If that Sanctuaries in Sky is in the field or in either graveyard, you can activate this effect up to twice per turn. Then probably, in my opinion, the best new card that we've received is triple, in the main deck anyway, is triple Agent of Creation Neptune. So this card, Agent of Life Neptune. This card's really cool, so you can discard this card to special summon an agent monster from your hand or graveyard, except itself. Or if Sanctuary in the Sky is in the field zone or either graveyard, you can special summon one Hyperion monster instead. Neither player can tribute a monster summoned with this effect until the end of your opponent's turn. If this card is banished, you get to add a Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to the hand, only use the effect once per turn. Now obviously it's a level 1 with 0 attack, so there are other routes to get to this card should you want to play stuff like the Puri-Rezi map, but you're not going to be normal summoning it, keep that in mind. Then for your starters, now these are the cards you want to be normal summoning in order to get your plays going. So the one card that we didn't get in Ghost from the Past but should hopefully be in the Mega Tins is triple Diviner of the Herald. The reason this is so important as a starter is that it is probably the best starter on its own, minus Venus. And what we mean by that is this card is actually, when it's summoned, it Foolish Burial as a card from the deck, and you're probably going to be sending, more times than not, Trias. By sending Trias, you can then trigger the effect of Trias to tribute the Diviner of Herald, and what that will then allow you to do is summon back the Trias, but also special summon a Button from the deck. Now, Button is a level 1 fairy that's only had one print in Galactic Overdrive. It is currently like 99p on eBay, so definitely worth picking up if you want to build this deck and don't have it already, because what makes this so good is it is a tuner. So Button plus Trias will give you your Halifairax play, and on top of that as well, Button can banish itself from the graveyard to turn a fairy level 4 or lower fairy monster into a tuner. Because whether you go into Halifairax or whether you use these two to go into the new Link monster, the Protector of Moon, you'll then be able to extend your plays even further. And I'll show you that all in the combo. Your other main starter is the triple Agent of Mystery Earth. Now what makes this one so good is when this card is normal summoned, you get to add an agent monster from your deck to the hand, except itself. If Sanctuary of Sky is on the field, you can add one Master Hyperion instead. Now the reason this is so good is it searches you out your Neptune, and the best thing about this is because it's 1000 attack or less as a normal summon, you can actually turn it into Almirage, and that's where this becomes a one card combo, because you then get into your Agent of Creation, Neptune, bring this card back, and then you've got Halifairax plays. The biggest downside is that it specifically triggers on normal summon, so it is a when effect as well, annoyingly. But if you can't resolve this card, you do struggle a little bit, which is why we also play Protecting Spirit Logothar. Now, the reason we're playing this is because if any of these activate, and as long as that activation isn't negated, which is going to be very rare unless you're going second, Logotha can then still summon herself down. So Logotha is when a fairy effect monster activates its effect on the field, you can special summon this card from the hand. Why this is so good is because even if this gets impermed, veilered, ashed, you name it, and same with Diviner, you can still summon it down. You still then got a tune-up plus another monster, so it gives you Halli-Fibrax plays, and you've still got 2 fairies that will give you the moon play as well. So it's just another route of being able to play through hand traps, which something like this deck can struggle with. And what we mean by that is, it's one of them old school decks that's been tried to be modified, and it still can't really deal with the modernized cards we have in the game, which is why we do play a lot of hand traps and a lot of ways to try and play around them or play through them. Your next starter, which ideally you don't really want to be your starter, you'd rather it be Diviner or Earth, and you want to try and minimize opening up multiples of these in one go, is Double Creation Venus and the 1 Agent of Destruction Venus. Now, the reason I've gone with 2 and 1 is ultimately you don't need to have 3 of this, because what makes this so good is you can summon it off of Halli-Fibrax, link this off, get it to the graveyard, and then you can use Neptune to bring it back, and then it's live to go again. On the other side as well is that you need to have successfully resolved Venus in order to make this effect live. There are multiple ways of resolving Venus. One of the more common routes is being able to resolve its effect by sending it with the Master Hyperion, or the Master Flare Hyperion specifically, because then it copies Venus's effect. So it can then start spawning the Mystical Shine Balls, which we do, of course, play 3 of, which is the Mac Daddy brick of the deck. Like, you don't really ever want to see a Shine Ball in your hand. You want it to be buried as far deep in the deck as possible. And then once you've paid your 1,500 life points, you can then pay like 1,000 to 1,500 life points with your Venus to then go again. So it does allow you to continue summon, and that's where Button comes into play, because making this a tuner can be very, very useful for the rest of our extra deck. Now, for the final main deck monster that isn't a hand trap, we've got the 1 Archlord Christia. Now, the reason this is so good is, especially with Super Poly running around right now, an Archlord Christia can be incredibly powerful. And shout out to Kali Effect on this one, but there was a really cool combo that I saw him do, where he summons this during his opponent's turn. Whether you summon it during your turn or not, it doesn't really matter. What makes it so good is you combo it off with Pluto, so that during your end phase, you can use Pluto's effect to book a moon your own Archlord Christia, which then means that you can continue to play during your turn, which I think is really kind of cool. Alternatively, if you don't want to play the Archlord Christia, you do have the Scythe Lock. I highly expect Scythe Lock to get hit on the next ban list. So your other alternative is playing Fusion Destiny and DPE with a Verte and a Condor in the extra deck. But again, I tried to avoid that because I didn't want to do the same thing over and over again. And I kind of wanted to show that this deck can still be played. Like all of this, Logotha is like a £5 card and Diviner is a £30 card. If you don't have access to Diviner, that's where this combo with Diviner, Trias, and Button becomes a little bit more difficult. So you end up going with a Venus to 3 kind of play, and you start to work a bit more with your Earth and Venus rather than Diviner. So it does give you a couple of options. Everything else, even Archlord Christia was the only other one that wasn't reprinted in Ghost from the Past, is something that you'll need to pick up. There were, of course, the other agents like Mars and Jupiter, but they aren't exactly as effective for the deck going forward. Carrying on with the rest of the Agent of Creation cards, we do have triple of the brand new Sacred Waters in the Sky. So this is basically the archetypal rotor. So you can activate 1 Sanctuary in the Sky directly from your deck, or you get to add a monster that mentions a Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to the hand. Then if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in either graveyard, you get to gain 500 life points for each Hyperion or the agent monsters you control. If a monster that mentions Sanctuary in the Sky would be destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from the graveyard instead, and you can only use each effect once per turn, and you can only activate this card once per turn. Now, putting that in perspective, cards that list Sanctuary in the Sky, of course, do kind of include Earth, so it is a direct rotor to one of your starters. You're playing 6 copies of that. It can also search you out Neptune, and then, of course, it can search you out either of your Master Hyperions. So you've definitely got loads of targets to be searching off this card, which is why it's so good. Then, of course, you play the 1 Sanctuary in the Sky. The reason you're playing 1, again, is not so much of Garnet, because it can help you get double effects through some of your cards that specifically want this to be on the board. But it is a card that you kind of want to be getting into in order to kind of keep your plays going. Its effect is a little less relevant in like how bad you're going to apply it, or how desperate you need it in the deck. But battle damage to your to the controller of a fairy monster from a battle involving that monster becomes 0. So it basically means that you're not going to take a lot of damage from battle over your fairies. And then lastly, we've got the one brand new Fallen Sanctuary. This card's actually crazy good. So when this card is activated, you get to set one Sanctuary in the sky or a spell or trap that mentions it directly from your deck. So it's a way of searching out a second copy of this during your opponent's turn. Then you also get the additional benefit of you can banish one fairy monster from your graveyard to then target an effect monster you control, your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. So it's basically a continuous imperm, which is really, really cool. So you can only use each effect once per turn, and you can only activate one Fallen Sanctuary per turn. So it can be very specific, but it also becomes Sanctuary in the Sky, one on the field or in the graveyard. So there are ways where it's synergized with the rest of the deck, but being able to search a continual imperm every single turn is mad, and you will put a lot of fairies into the graveyard, so keep that in mind. Moving on to the hand traps and ways that we are going to try and play around hand traps. We are currently playing 2 Ash, 2 deck-specific Herald of Orange Light, 2 Ghost Belt and Haunted Mansion, and 2 Ghost Ogres, alongside 2 Infinite Impermanences. Now, any mixture of these can go up to 3 if you want to, but they can also go into other hand traps. Probably the more common one being used right now is probably going to be Effect Veiler. So it's entirely up to you on the ratios of what you want to use. I would definitely keep the Herald of Orange Light, because that can help protect you from Ashes, Ogres, Veilers, you name it. In order to help continue to protect you from other hand traps, we've got the 2 Crossout Designators, the 1 Call by the Grave, and double, triple Tactic Talents. Now, the reason these are all really important is, bar a card like Gamma, or bar a card in an actual mirror match of getting hit with a Herald of Orange Light, leaving a fairy monster on the board is not the end of the world. So being able to then activate Triple Tactics to draw 2 more cards, as long as that leads you into something like an Extender, or if you've already opened up a Logotha, it doesn't really matter if you get Ashed, because Ash only negates the effect, it doesn't negate the activation. So your monster effect, or the fairy effect monster specifically, has already activated, meaning Logotha will still come down regardless. Ghost Ogre can be a little bit damaging, but if they do Ghost Ogre your Earth, you can still search out your Neptune, and Neptune can still bring back the Earth, where you'll need an Extender to continue your plays. So you can kind of see where we're trying to stop, and then there's points where it's like, right, okay, well, even if you've activated one, as long as I'm not negating the activation with some of these, I can still activate talents to draw. These are mainly in here for Imperm, because it's kind of the only card that this can't protect against. And obviously with Triple Tactic Talents as well, as if you're going second and you do go into one of your opponent's negates, you can use talents to either bait out another negate or try and take one from them. So that's it for the main deck. It's currently sitting at 42 cards. Obviously, the only cards that, again, none of these really got reprinted in Ghost from the past, but you should have the majority of them by now. If you don't have Crossout Designators and Triple Tactic Talents, that's when you can start putting in the DPE engine. It's where you can kind of try and spice it up with the Scythe package. Entirely up to you on what you have access to. Moving to the extra deck, we'll go over the Link monsters first, and then we'll go over the Synchro monsters, because personally, I really, really like the idea of the Synchro monsters. So for the Link monsters, you've got the 1 Almirage, so you turn Earth into this, and then you use your Neptune to revive your Earth back from the graveyard. You've got the 1 Link Spider to be coming off of the back of all of your Sphere tokens, your Shine Balls. You can go into Sarudra if you want to, but I feel that Sarudra is kind of like more of a... It's still a little bit dated, because it gets stopped by a lot of hand traps, and I feel that you can do more without it. For the other Link 2s, obviously Halifibrax. We're hoping that this doesn't get hit, because it is quite an integral part for this deck. I think that it's kind of slowly drifted away with Branded at the moment, and the spotlight is on Verte. But if this ban list is a little bit behind like I expect it to be, I would not be surprised if Halifibrax gets banned. If it does, it then puts less reliance on the Diviner of Herald play, and you would probably end up bumping Agent Moon to 2. So Moon is obviously the brand new card, requires 2 fairy monsters, and if it is link summoned, you get to add a Sanctuary in the Sky or a card that mentions it from your deck to the send Sanctuary in the Sky or a card that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard. If Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in either graveyard, you can add an Agent of Mystery Earth from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You contribute 1 fairy monster, then target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. You can only use each effect once per turn. So you can see that it's a very nice Foolish Burial. This can get you your Master Hyperions or your Majesty Hyperion mainly to the graveyard, and then you can move your plays from there. It can also help put a specific Agent of Creation Venus or Agent of Destruction Venus to the graveyard, so you can bring it back with Neptune. We've then got the 1 Celestial Night Lord Parshath. This card's actually now crazy good in this deck. I mean, it was crazy good in it before, but now it's just a little bit more easier to get to. And even if you're not actually actively summoning it, you can send it from your extra deck with your Master Flare and then gain its effects. So what this one does is you get the ability to discard a card to add Sanctuary in the Sky, or a card that specifically lists it in its text from your deck to the hand. Or if Sanctuary in the Sky is already on the field, you can add one fairy monster from your deck instead. If another face-up fairy monster you control is sent to the graveyard except during a damage step, you can banish one fairy monster from your graveyard to special summon a fairy monster from your hand, whose level is higher than that you banished. So the best thing about this is it just says if it's sent from the field to the graveyard. So if you link off, you will be able to trigger it. So that's ways of getting Christia down during your opponent's turn, because Halley Firebrax can go into Formula Synchron, that can then sync off, and as long as you use a fairy monster, you can then trigger this to summon down Christia. It's also another way of just summoning down Christia in general during your turn, should you want to as well. For the last two Link monsters, of course, we've got the one Appaloosa, Boat of the Goddess, and the one Access Code. Now, you don't need to run Access Code. It is just an additional flex of power, but you do have the ability of Earths, Waters, Fires, and Lights in order to trigger its effect and give it a nice little boost. So this is obviously your defender, this is your aggressor, and it lets you go from either or with that way as well. Moving on to the synchros, there are a couple that I'll show you options at the end of ones that I'm not sure of which one I want to take the last spot of, and I'm still playing around with at the moment. So we've got the one Formula Synchron. This is mainly going to come off of Halley Firebrax. The other card that can come off of Halley Firebrax as well is the Pluto. Now this is the one that I mentioned. If Sanctuary in the Sky is in play, it's a quick effect Book of Moon. So once per turn, you can banish a monster from the graveyard to target an effect monster on the field, change it to face down defense position. This is a quick effect if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field or in either graveyard. You can banish this card from the graveyard to add a Sanctuary in the Sky from the deck or graveyard to the hand. Only use each effect once per turn. Now obviously the downside is, it's a quick effect Book of Moon, which is great, but it is only 0 defense. But there are ways that you Formula Synchron into this, or you can just go Halley Firebrax into this as well. It gives you the best of both options. The other card you can play with as well is the Cupid Pitch and a Herald of Arc Light, so either or on one of these, depending on how you want to play. And then the final three cards are going to be the one Baron de Fleur. If you don't have access to Baron de Fleur, you can play the Sovereign Qi Zhao. Now the reason this is so good, Qi Xing, is because it's a 3k base that can't be targeted and can't be destroyed. And if a card, it can't be destroyed, and if it would be destroyed, you banish a card from the graveyard, so it's generic. And then if a card is banished, except during the damage step, you get to non-target banish one card from the field and one card from the graveyard, specifically your opponent's side. So that's really, really cool. And then it gains attack, or 100 attack for every banished card, and then obviously reduce your opponent for every as well. So that's very, very important as a boss monster. The one you're probably going to go into more times than not is the Master Flare Hyperion. This card looks amazing, and its effect stands up to it as well. So it's one tuner plus one or more non-tuner fairy monsters, which you should be absolutely fine with within your entire deck. You can send one agent monster or one monster that mentions Sanctuary in the Sky from your hand, deck, or extra deck to the graveyard until the end of this turn. This card's name becomes that monster's original name and replaces effect with that monster's original effect. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you get to banish a fairy monster from your hand or graveyard to target one card on the field and banish it. You can only use each effect once per turn. So again, you can kind of see how he's a disruptor during your opponent's turn, but also a extender during your turn, because you can either make him Parshath, or more times than not, you're going to make him Agent of Creation Venus. The last card is entirely up to you. I'm still working around with which level 9 I want to play. Now, obviously, all of these have great aspects of involvement as well, and the reason I've kind of gone with these is that they're waters and winds, which means I also quite easily dodge Super Polish during my opponent's turn. Now, obviously, Trish is a banish from grave, field, and hand. Mistworm is a target free and spin them back. And then your Crocosaur, by the time you actually make this during the same kind of play that you would make either of these two, you draw 3 and your hand goes back up to a minimum of 4 cards, not to mention other cards you might have in your opening hand. So you'll become a very strong monster that becomes a discard and pop. So it's really, does my opponent have something in the hand, the grave, and the field that I want to deal with? Does my opponent have multiple cards on the field I want to deal with? Or do I want to draw cards and deal with one additional card my opponent might be able to play? So it's either or of any of these, or if you wanted to play 2 of these, you can also play 1 Herald instead of the Cupid Pitch, or vice versa. It's entirely up to you. There is a lot of flex spots within this deck, which is why it's so good to be experimenting with right now. And it's definitely worth playing around with, because I think it's definitely got longevity. It might become a little bit more inconsistent should Halley Firebrax get banned, but it still gives you roots of creativity to play around with it and give you a couple of options. So I'm hoping this build will be here as a structure for you guys to kind of use and build off the back of to see where you can go. I'm now going to reset the game state and I'm going to show you 1 cards and 2 card combos, the very basics that you will need to master this deck. Okay, so the 1 card combo is of course Diviner of the Herald. It's very, very simple in this one. You're going to normal summon the Diviner, you're going to use this effect to send from deck to the graveyard a Trias. Trias is then going to use this effect to tribute off the Diviner of Herald to summon itself back. Because you tributed off Diviner of Herald, that will special summon a level 1 fairy from the deck, which will be your button. You're then going to be able to sync these two together to make the brand new Master Flare Hyperion. You'll then use Master Flare Hyperion's effect to send from deck to the graveyard your Agent of Creation Venus, meaning that it is going to copy Venus's effect for the turn. You'll then pay multiples of 500, going up to 1500 to summon out 3 Mystical Shine Balls. You'll then use your Button in the graveyard to banish it in order to make one of these a tuner. Do not worry, one of these will be linked off as a tuner right now in order to make your Crystron Halifibrax. You'll then use the effect of Crystron Halifibrax to summon out a tuner from the deck. It doesn't matter which one, it will all depend on if you can get to Neptune or if you've opened up Neptune, that I'll show you in the next combo. So we're going to summon out the Agent of Destruction Venus, and you're going to link these two together and you're going to make the brand new Protector of the Agent Moon. Now you could synchro these two together and make the level 5 Pluto, but we're going to go a little bit of a different route as well, just to show you how far we can go. So you can use the Protector of the Agent's Moon to send your Majesty Hyperion from the deck to the graveyard. You'll then use the ability of the Majesty to banish a fairy from the graveyard. So we'll banish the Diviner of Herald and we'll summon back the Majesty Hyperion. Now at this moment in time, what you've got is you've got a quick effect to banish a fairy to banish a card your opponent controls. During your opponent's turn, you'll have the ability to tag out the Crystron Halifibrax. Obviously, if you have Sanctuary in the Sky, you can go for the Pluto to give you a quick effect Book of Moon. But because we don't, we're going to go into Formula Synchron, and then you're going to draw a random card. You'll then get the ability to sync these two together and go into any level 10 synchro you wish. So option number 1 would of course be Baron, because that gives you an Omni Negate. Option number 2 will be able to go into the Sovereign Qi Jing. Now by doing so, this is going to be up to 3300. Your opponent is going to be down by 300 as well. Not to mention when you have the ability to trigger this effect to banish a card, you'll then be able to trigger this effect as well to banish a card as well. So it comes down to whether you need the Omni Negate, which is only going to be once while it's on the field, or if you prefer the double banish play. So that's it for combo number 1. Now I'm going to take you through combo number 2, which is just simply adding 2 additional cards to the hand. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a 2.5 card combo. Basically, you need any discard and then a route to get to Earth or Neptune. Now, the routes can also be Venus instead of Neptune, and keep in mind that you also have the Sacred Waters that can get you into Earth or Neptune as well. So you've got loads of routes to get to where you need to go. We're going to open up with a basic minimum of Neptune plus Earth and our discard. You're going to normal summon Earth. This will then give you the card that you're missing, whether it be Neptune or Venus. You then use Neptune's effect to special summon or discard this card in order to special summon an agent monster from your hand or graveyard. In this case, it's going to be Venus. You're then going to trigger the effect of Venus, paying 1500 life points to summon out 3 Mystical Shine Balls. Keep in mind you do this effect one at a time, so if the first one gets ashed, you can still do it again and again. So for those of you that are inexperienced with the deck, do not ash Venus. There is no point, you can keep using the effect over and over. Then what you want to do here is you want to use your tuner plus 1 Mystical Shine Ball, and you're going to go into your Crystron Halifibrax. You're then going to trigger the Halifibrax's effect. Now it is very specific that you do need to bring out a level 3 tuner, but you need to make sure you don't bring out the Agent of Creation Destruction. That is where you can mess the combo up a little bit. So in this example, we're going to bring out Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. It can be Ash Blossom, it can be anything you want, because basically what you're going to do here is you're going to sync into a level 10. Sinking into level 10, you're going to go to your Master Hyperion, and what you want to do here is you're going to use Master Hyperion's effect and send the Agent of Destruction Venus. So this is why it's important not to send the Venus unless you're playing multiple copies. You'll then use the Agent of Destruction Venus. Now this one's different because this one you pay multiples and then resolve the effect, so it's not one at a time. So by using the Master Hyperion effect, we're going to pay 1500 life points, so we have paid 3000 life points already, and we're going to special summon these 3 Shine Balls out. Keep in mind that when these leave the field, they go to the bottom of the deck, which is very important because it can recycle. Then what you want to do here is you want to use 2 of these, and you're going to go into your Agent Moon. You're then going to trigger the effect of Moon, and that is going to send from your deck to the graveyard an Agent or the Master Hyperion. So we're going to send the Magist Hyperion, and then you're going to use the effect of Magist Hyperion in order to special summon itself by banishing your Agent of Life Neptune. This will then trigger Neptune's effect, and this will allow you to get the Fallen Sanctuary, or the Sanctuary in the Sky. There we go. And this is why you need to discard. If you wanted to, you could discard the Sanctuary in the Sky and you get the Trap card, so you don't need the discard. But in this one, we actually want to add Christius. So we're going to activate Sanctuary in the Sky, and then what you want to do here is you're going to link 3. So you're going to go with Moon and the final Shine Ball. And this one is going to let you get into Celestial Night Lord Parshaf. You'll then be able to trigger Parshaf's effect, and because you've got Sanctuary in the Sky on board, you'll be able to add Archlord Christia. So this is the difference. If you don't have to discard, you just search out the Trap card rather than search. You discard the Sanctuary in the Sky and search out the Trap card. If you do have the Trap card, then you basically get to, or if you do have the discard, which I believe is Ghost Spell, you're going to discard this in order to give you the Christia. Now let me just find where Christia is currently hiding. Now this again is quite important because it depends if you want to summon Christia during your turn or during your opponent's turn. Now if you want to do it during your turn, then you link off the Halifibrax with the Magist Hyperion and go for a different play that way. In this one, we're going to save it for our opponent's turn, and what you're going to do here is during your opponent's turn, Halifibrax is going to tag out to give you the Formula Synchron, which will let you draw a random card, replacing the discard for the Christia. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to sync the Formula Synchron, and you're going to go into the Baron de Fleur. And then because a fairy left the board, you can trigger your Celestial Night Lord Parshaf and special summon down Christia. Locking your opponent out completely, you've got a Banish, you've got an Omni Negate, and you're good to go from there. You've still got the 1 card replenished, and keeping in mind, if you didn't want to go for the Archlord Christia play, whether you're just against using Archlord Christia or not, then instead of using the discard, you actually get the Fallen Sanctuary, discarding the Sanctuary in the Sky, and you'd still get the random draw. You'd still get the ability to get into the Baron as well. You just trade out the lock. So if you feel that your opponent's going to get Dark Lord and no more, you can go for the Sanctuary in the Sky, which will be an imperm, rather than anything else. Okay, moving on to the third and final combo. So here is the 3-card combo. The 2 specific cards is Diviner, and it's pretty much going to go down the exact same 1-card route. The alternative one is then the Agent of Life Neptune. This is going to be able to add to your end board the ability of getting to an additional Parshaf, and then either the Trap card as a continuous imperm, or the ability to go through a Christia lock, entirely up to you. And then you need 1 random discard. It can be any card in your entire deck. So, you're going to normal summon the Diviner of the Herald. You're going to trigger the exact same effect that you've done before by sending from your deck to the graveyard your, wherever she is be hiding, your Trias. You're then going to use Trias' effect to tribute the Diviner of the Herald, and that is then going to let you trigger the Diviner of Herald effect, and that is of course going to let you summon out your button. You're then going to do the exact same thing again. You're going to go into your Master Hyperion of Flare. This is going to be able to send Venus from your deck to the graveyard in order to copy its effect. You're then going to spawn out your 3 Mystical Shine Balls, and again turn 1 of them into a tuner by banishing the Budan. There we go. Let's get rid of that. There we go. You're going to link these 2 together. You're going to go into your Crystron Halifibrax. You're going to trigger the effect of Crystron Halifibrax to summon again the Agent of Destruction Venus. This is the point where you now synchro summon into Pluto. Again, you could link summon if you wanted to, but we're going to get a little bit more advantage from this as we speak. So now we've got Neptune. Neptune's got the ability to special summon an agent from the hand or from the graveyard. So we're going to use this effect to discard this in order to bring back the Agent of Destruction, Venus. Now this only leaves us with 2 spaces, which means we're going to use her effect to pay 1,000 life points and summon back 2 Mystical Shine Balls. You've then got the ability to use the Agent of Destruction, Venus, and the Mystical Shine Ball, keeping in mind that this one goes back to the bottom of your main deck, to go into your Protector of the Moon. Now if you wanted to keep a tuner on the board, you could with your Venus, but you really don't need to at this moment in time. You're then going to use the Protector of Agents Moon's effect to send the Magist Hyperion from deck to the graveyard, and then you can use the effect to banish 1 from the graveyard to summon it back. So we're going to, because we've been using the Destruction, we'll use this again to summon back the Master Hyperion. Let's spread this out a little bit. You've then got the ability to link your Moon and Mystical Shine Ball into your Celestial Night Lord Parshaf. Now, keeping in mind as well, sorry, not Venus, should have banished banish Neptune, which should have been the correct call. So you banish Neptune, you search yourself out a Sanctuary in the Sky, which is actually important for the combo in order to get you that little bit further. So you're going to activate the Sanctuary in the Sky. Now this route of play is the way where you go Parshath effect to discard the random card, and then you get to add a Christia. Now if doing so, you'll be able to summon it down during the next turn, or if you wanted to summon it down during your turn, you just need to link some of these off. As long as a fairy monster leaves the field, you'll summon it down. So your options are Christia for a bit of a lock, or you're going to go for Fallen Sanctuary for a Imperm. Now, if you go with Fallen Sanctuary, what you've ended up getting, if you've got an Imperm here, you've got a Banish here, you've got a Book of Moon here, and then you'll get the effect off of Crystron Halifibrax in order to then sink into a level 10 Baron de Fleur. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is you add the Christia because you've got Sanctuary in the Sky in play, and you'll do the exact same thing. Your Crystron Halifibrax will jump out. It will then go into the Formula Synchron and draw you a random card. And then off the back of that, you'll sink into a Baron or a Chi-Jiao, entirely up to you, and then that will then allow you to trigger in order to special summon a fairy from the hand, which will be Parshath. So it's entirely up to you. I'll pretty run you through this. You pass your opponent's turn, you tag out the Halifibrax, you go into the Formula Synchron, you draw the random card. You then use Formula Synchron's effect to synchro with the Master or Majesty Hyperion to go into Baron, or of course your Chi-Jing. You'll then trigger the Parshath effect to summon down the Christia. Now obviously this is going to be stronger because unless your opponent opens up a Dark Ruler no more, you pretty much turn off a Super Poly, you turn off any way that they can try and crack this board. The alternative route that lets you play around Dark Rulers a little bit more is that you go for the Baron with the Trap card, because at least if you get Dark Rulered, you'll still have the Trap that can become an Imperm, which sometimes can be enough to deal with what your opponent is trying to build. And that's pretty much it for the very basic combos that you're going to see. Now, yes, both of them do use Diviner of the Herald, so that is your 1-card combo. Your other route of plays with stuff like this as well can become your Agent of Creation or Agent of Earth. And then obviously off the back of the Earth one, you're then able to search out your Neptune, and you're going to need to play with a few more extenders. So the button becomes a little bit irrelevant, but you're still able to make some plays there as well. Anyway, I hope this video has given you a very basic breakdown. Like I said, if you want to see more from the Agent deck itself, then please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. If you get it to above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, I'll bring you a more conclusive test stand video so you can kind of see all of the different options and avenues that this deck can produce. As absolutely always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and until next time, stay safe and happy dueling!